Tree yoga is for anyone and everyone. And I know everybody says that about everything, but it really is the case with tree yoga and not so much with other things. For example, weightlifting is a great thing to do, but it's not for everyone. The same goes for running. I personally love hiking and could do it all day, every day, but again, it's not for everyone. When I say these things aren't for everyone, I'm talking about two main things. Number one, actually liking the thing, and number two, being able to physically do it. Let's start with number one. You have to like the wellness practice you do, otherwise it's not sustainable in the long term. Eventually you're gonna fall off and not do it unless you like it. And let's use the examples we already talked about. Running, weightlifting, and hiking. Personally, I like all those things, but there will be a group of people, and it's a big amount, a lot of people, there'll be a group of people for everything, weightlifting, running, and hiking, saying that it's bad for you or is dangerous. It's amazing. You can pick any religion or spiritual practice, it does not matter. There will be a large amount of people saying it's bad, it's evil, or hating on it. The same can be said for any form of exercise, any sport, any organization. There's always going to be a group of people opposing it or against it or saying that it's bad. And I found that nature is actually the number one thing that people are least likely to hate or to be against. And I know it's almost hilarious to even say that out loud. I'm laughing inside as I say that, because who would hate nature? And we're not talking about why hate is there. It is what it is. We just have to work with what we got where we are. But nature is the number one thing that the least amount of people hate and the most amount of people can get behind and enjoy. Most people already love nature. And for the people that don't, once they spend time in it, they learn to love nature. Physically, can everyone do tree yoga? The answer is yes. But you might be wondering, how am I supposed to do tree yoga if I'm in a wheelchair? And that is an excellent question. However, you don't have to come out into the middle of the woods in order to practice tree yoga and in order to connect with nature. All you have to do is place yourself next to a tree so you're in the tree's positive electromagnetic field. Let's suppose that you're an elderly person in a wheelchair at an assisted living facility. Pretty much all assisted living facilities have beautiful outdoor spaces with great trees, and it's only a matter of just placing yourself next to the tree. Now let's suppose that you're a college student. You're an athlete too at a D1 university, so you don't have a lot of time. You also don't even have a car to leave campus. Pretty much all colleges and universities have incredible trees in their beautiful campuses. And last example, then we'll move on. Let's say you live in the city. Let's say you live in Boston. Even if you're in the heart of the city, it will blow your mind, the beautiful parks and incredible trees close by. You just need to start looking. They're there, and they've always been there. Some of my favorite trees are in the middle of Boston, are in the middle of Worcester. Okay, switching gears here. Do you remember the Harvard Mindful Exercise Study? One more time, that's the Harvard Mindful Exercise Study. The results were simply mind-blowing. Basically, they had two groups of hotel maids who cleaned hotels as their job. For the first group, they showed them with evidence, hey, look, what you're doing is actually exercise too. So you're technically working out on the job. You're exercising on the job. And these maids changed the way they looked at what they were doing on a daily basis. The other group of maids, well, they served as the control group. They weren't told anything. They continued to do what they have always done, and they looked at it the same way. So to be crystal clear here, the only thing that changed with the first group of hotel maids was how they looked at the situation. They were doing the same thing physically, They just changed how they looked at what they were doing. The maids that changed their perception got healthier on all levels. Everyone was doing the same thing that they always did, but just being aware of the benefits helped that group of hotel maids get more benefits. And we can apply the same thing to our tree yoga practice as well as to connecting with nature. You're going to receive benefit no matter what from doing tree yoga, from going out and connecting with nature. However, being aware of the benefits allows you to receive even more benefit. And if we combine this with other things like being more present, being more relaxed, and practicing that deep breathing, we can receive maximum benefit. Now that all that has been said, there are 3 main ways to practice tree yoga. Number 1, we do actual yoga poses with the tree. Number 2, we meditate with the tree. And number 3 is tree yoga hiking. Starting with tree yoga poses, this is a great example of a tree we want to work with. We want to look for a trunk between 6 inches and 2 feet in diameter. It does not have to be exact, however, that is the optimal range. Because if we're working with a tree too small, like this tree, we can hurt the tree and we can hurt ourselves. If we're working with a tree that's too big, that has a huge trunk, it becomes very difficult to work with. It becomes hard to get a good grip, use it for leverage, as well as the ground. Because of the massive trunk and root system, the ground becomes uneven. We want to look for ground that is relatively flat and definitely stable. Do not practice tree yoga on moss or unstable ground. Always look around, specifically check the ground and check the tree. Do you want to have sticky hands because you placed your hands on a trunk with sap, and since you don't have alcohol wipes, you are not easily getting that off, even with water? And listen, this is important. I have found multiple nails in trees, maybe from former campsites or former signs that used to be there. But the last thing you want to happen when you're doing tree yoga is this nice relaxing flow, then boom, hand on a nail. That will completely ruin the whole experience. Always check the tree. It will take you a minute or less. Check the ground, check the trunk, also check above for any potential dead branches that may fall or something like a beehive. Once you have done this, you are good to go. Any yoga pose imaginable, in any calisthenics move, any stretch, any body weight exercise you can think of, you can do it with the tree. Not only that, but you can often get deeper into the pose or stretch. And don't forget, you're connecting with the center of the tree's positive electromagnetic field. So you're purifying at the deepest level. Although this would not be the best tree for poses, this is an optimal tree for meditation. With tree yoga meditation, we want to look for the biggest trees possible. I call these power trees. And this is because the bigger the trunk, the stronger the electromagnetic field, the more deeply we are pulled into the present moment. A powerful exercise is to visualize the forest as a heat map for presence. Again, that's a heat map for presence. Heat maps, they sound fancy, but you're probably more familiar than you may initially think. For example, traffic reports, current traffic conditions, that's a great example of a heat map in a negative way, where green is the least traffic, yellow, moderate, red, the most concentrated number of cars, the most traffic. Now back to the forest, it's a heat map for a positive thing, where green would be an absence of presence. So the entire forest starts as yellow, the entire thing has a good amount of presence, and then every single tree would be a red dot. And the bigger trees would be bigger red dots, And the tree I'm sitting next to right now would be the darkest, biggest red dot in this entire area. Now, you obviously want to be able to meditate anywhere. And you wouldn't think it matters so much where you meditate, but it matters a lot. And it's not always about working harder, remember? We want to work hard and smart. By placing yourself in the right environment, it changes everything, especially with meditation. If you think about it this way, I'm currently sitting in the spot in this entire area of Wachusett Reservoir, maybe not the number one, but one of the spots where the greatest amount of presence is. This spot right here is more in the moment than any other spot in this area. A peaceful forest is much more conducive to meditation than a busy city, not just because of the noise, but mainly because of the energy. If you want to master meditation, master the art of placement. Place yourself in the right environments where meditation is easy. Better yet, place yourself next to a power tree where the tree basically does the meditation for you by pulling you into the present moment. Maybe that's why the Buddha was meditating under a tree. You will be amazed at the trees you find when you slow down, fully open your eyes, and look around. It truly does become nature's classroom. In essence, this is what tree yoga hiking is all about. It's regular hiking, except slow down. And it's almost, we want to look at it like a practice of presence, a practice of awareness and curiosity. What can we find in nature? And it will truly amaze you, the stories and visuals of resilience and perseverance and overcoming all obstacles, growing in places that look impossible to grow. All these things you visually see in nature with the trees. And practically, we can find trees that are very conducive to meditation, as well as make certain poses and movements easier too. And we will get into that in a moment. But the thing I want to highlight here is the importance of slowing down, not just in life, but specifically with tree yoga hiking. Yes, you can hike as fast as you can from mountaintop to mountaintop, from A to B, and that is a fun challenge. However, we get more benefit from slowing down because we're spending more quality time intentionally in the tree's electromagnetic fields. The more you slow down, the more positive energy you absorb from each individual tree's electromagnetic field. Additionally, the more negative energy is pulled out of you. This is an example of something really cool you can find while doing tree yoga hiking, while slowing it down and looking around. I actually just found this now. I've never known about this, and I've been on this trail a couple times, and I just noticed something over here and came over and checked it out. We have the biggest burl, that's B-U-R-L. This is the biggest burl I've ever seen. And people have different views on what caused these. Some think it's caused by stress to the tree, others think it has nothing to do with it. But regardless of the cause, this is prized because of its beauty and scarcity. Yes, it looks kind of ugly on the outside, but burl wood is actually the most valued, or one of the most valued woods, because of the incredible patterns inside. It's bud tissue that never became a leaf or a twig, and instead this whole thing is a different tissue than the rest of the trunk. Again, this is a burl, and I just found it now. Every tree tells a story, and the story here is about perseverance, resilience, and never giving up. This tree branch right here snapped, but if you follow it, even after snapping and falling towards the ground, it continues to grow. it continues to thrive. It is not just about cool finds, it is also about practicality. In my opinion, tree hug meditations are the absolute best way, or at least one of the best ways to meditate. And finding a tree that's slightly leaning over, or maybe even a more exaggerated angle will be better depending on the person. It makes tree hug meditation so much better because you can fully relax instead of worrying about standing up and, oh, I hope I don't fall down if I get too relaxed. For this, I can lean into the tree, allowed to support my weight so I can bring all my focus to the breath and not worrying about keeping my leg muscles engaged, just melting into the tree. Focus on the breath for that tree hug meditation. A good find while tree yoga hiking. Here we have yet another incredible tree found during tree yoga hiking. What's really cool about this tree and similar trees, you can stand in the center, get even closer to the center of a tree's electromagnetic field, as well as stand in the center of multiple strong, positive electromagnetic fields at the same time. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the 3 levels of a virtual practice. The 3 levels are: number 1, addict; number 2, monk; and number 3, yogi. Briefly talking or breaking down each one, most people will openly admit that they are addicted to their phone. And it's incredible, it's almost like a cult, because you will hear the same refrain from almost everyone. I'm so addicted to my phone. I'm so addicted to my phone. Same as I have ADHD, and it typically is from that, by the way. Anyways, level 1 is addict. You're addicted to the cell phone, you're addicted to technology, and it is using you as opposed to you using it. And how do we get out of this? We transition to level 2, which is monk. Monks and Amish people, they don't use technology at all. Personally, I recommend viewing this as a transition, as an intermediate step, as a way for us to get from level 1 addict, we go through level 2 monk, and we arrive at level 3 yogi. Because again, I'm not judging monks or Amish people, but the thing is, if you live that lifestyle and never use the tool, you never benefit from the tool. And we live in an incredible age where many amazing tools are available. I'm recording this on an iPhone. I'm editing this all together on a MacBook. I'm doing my best to use technology as a yogi. And as a yogi, you use the technology intentionally, mindfully, as opposed to the technology using you. That's the main difference. And again, we can get there through monk mode, level 2, or what I like to call virtual fasting. Virtual fasting is exactly what it sounds like. Just like we can fast from food, we can and should fast from technology, fast from stimulation and negative electromagnetic fields. It's not just the negative energy though, it's how our brains are being wired in this crazy, chaotic, maladaptive way. Many of the social media apps of today are designed to get you as distracted as possible, overstimulated, and flipping between realities every 1 or 2 seconds. And it doesn't seem like it's doing damage because it's not a boom, one knockout blow. Instead, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. And these are paper cuts you cannot even feel. If you live that overstimulated, fast-paced, switching realities all the time, mental lifestyle for too long, your brain can become completely destroyed. So that's why I highly recommend starting with virtual fasting as soon as possible. And then later, if you want to do tree yoga, listen to your favorite podcast or book, do that. But first, break the attachment to technology. Transition from addict through monk to yogi so you can use technology in an enlightened way. Grounded, mindful, intentional, and you are using the technology as opposed to the technology, again, using you. It's not just about switching the energy we're in, getting out of negative electromagnetic fields into positive electromagnetic fields, but it's also about getting into new information fields. Faces, places, and spaces not only have their own unique electromagnetic fields, but they also have their own unique information fields too. People harbor a variety of different thought forms specific to them in their information fields. So when you're in another person's field interacting with them, not only do you absorb some of their energy, but you also become more receptive to their thought forms. The same thing with faces holds true for spaces. And the best way to understand this is to look at an obvious example. Let's imagine a busy, crowded McDonald's in a city versus a quiet, beautiful library. Both places have totally different intentions associated with them, and they have totally different thought forms harbored in their own specific information fields. And it really is like that. The thoughts are almost in the air. The energy is almost in the air. And depending where you are, it becomes easier to do different things. If you're at an exercise class, it's easier to work out. Well, you're connecting with that energy in those thought forms. When you're at a library, it's easier to study. You're connecting with that energy, that intention, those type of thoughts. And when you're at a Chinese buffet, it's easier to get another plate of food because you're connecting with that energy and those kind of thoughts. It is imperative to understand that all thoughts do not come from you. Do not believe everything you think because not all of it is true. And again, all of it is not you. Oftentimes we pick up on other people's thoughts, the thoughts in the air, and then identify with them as our own. And we don't want to do that. But even more important, unless it's a really good idea, then keep it in your field. But even more important than that, knowing that all thoughts are not our own, and we can let those go that we don't want anymore. They were never ours to begin with. Even more important than that is understanding where we can find the most clarity. Just like nature is home to the best electromagnetic fields, nature is home to the best information fields. Personally, I've had some of my greatest insights while out in nature. Some of the greatest minds in history have found incredible inspiration from nature. So not only are we purifying our energy and healing at the deepest level with tree yoga, but we're also connecting with higher thoughts. Is it better to practice tree yoga alone or in a group with other people? The obvious answer is both. We just talked about information fields, and oftentimes those higher thoughts and that inspiration can't get through because the environment someone in is too loud and it's too distracting. There's too much noise. However, when you get in a nice, peaceful, quiet environment like the one I'm in now, you're surrounded by the good energy of the trees and also the clarity from the information fields. That allows the higher thoughts and inspiration to get through. At the same time, however, nature is often the optimal place to connect with other people. You don't have the flashing lights at the bar. You don't have all the noise and random chatter at the restaurant. You don't have all these things taking your attention away from the other person. When you're with another person or another group of people in nature, you can connect with them on a deeper level. You can get to know them more. And you're surrounded by energy you know is good as opposed to a random mixed bag. Definitely enjoy life, but do not overlook the beauty of connecting with people and doing tree yoga with the group. As for what you need, you only truly need yourself to practice tree yoga. You don't even need a yoga mat. I actually recommend using a towel because it's a better fit to the earth. And even better than that, use the earth as your giant yoga mat. Many people do not know that most yoga mats actually disconnect you from the energy of the earth. That's why using a towel is better, but no mats or no mat at all is best using, again, the earth as your yoga mat for the strongest energetic connection. Tree yoga is best practiced barefoot with bare hands connected to the trunk of the tree. However, it's important to address something right now. Even though the skin to earth connection is very powerful, if you are wearing shoes like I am now, if you're using a yoga mat doing tree yoga, it's not like it cancels out the benefits. We're just talking about the ways to maximize benefits now. But you have to practice in the season you're in. I'm wearing boots and long sleeves and long pants because it's pretty cold right now. And there still is a strong energetic connection between me and nature. However, we can maximize it by in season being barefoot, using bare hands as opposed to having gloves on. But the main thing is we just want to bring major clusters of nerves close to the earth, whether it's the ground or the trunk of the tree. So there are huge clusters of nerves in the hands and feet. Also in the face, the heart, the abdomen, the trunk. That's why tree hugging is such a powerful meditation, because we bring all the main clusters of nerves as close as possible to the trunk of the tree or the center of the healing electromagnetic field. If you have not looked into it already, the benefits of earthing and just being barefoot in itself for your health are mind-blowing. However, it is critical to dress appropriately for the season you're in as well as your environment. And it's not always as black and white as you think. Maybe it's summertime, however, the mosquitoes are bad in your area that year. So even though it's warm enough to be short sleeves, shorts, and barefoot, maybe it's better to have boots on, long sleeves, so you can enjoy the hike or the tree yoga experience. Further, let's get into some quick specific things now, then we'll go into much more detail in the next lesson. It's important to be aware of any storms in your area. It's important to be aware of the weather. Maybe it looks very beautiful out, but in the moment, but a storm's coming in a few hours. You don't want to get caught in the middle of the woods after a great tree yoga session, an experience with nature, and have it ruined by a very dangerous storm. You also want to be aware if they are spraying any chemicals like that at the park you practice at, and it even happens deeper out in nature. You'd be surprised. Lastly, want to be highly aware of any poisonous plants local to your area. You do not want to practice with a tree that has poison ivy or poison sumac or whatever it is by you growing on it. And if you aren't sure if it's poison ivy, stay away and choose a different tree. I want to mention one more thing before closing out this lesson, and it is worth mentioning twice because if you do not get this right, it has the potential to ruin everything with tree yoga. Be highly aware of your entire environment, especially in this case, ticks and mosquitoes. Now, you don't want to let the small things ruin the bigger picture in life. However, a small thing like a tick can literally destroy your entire life and bring you incredible pain and suffering. My mom has Lyme disease from a tick, and it has caused her incredible pain and suffering. It is essential to know the prevention measures for mosquitoes and ticks. I do not want you to be scared of nature. I do not want you to become paranoid. However, I want you to be prepared and aware. And it's important to know any inherent risk with any practice. And it would be irresponsible if I did not tell you about this. If you practice the prevention measures, are mindful and aware of your environment, you'll be good to go. you'll be good to go and you can enjoy tree yoga how it's supposed to be enjoyed. Wear long sleeve clothing when appropriate. Use mosquito and tick repellent when necessary. Also, go to public parks instead of out here in the middle of the woods if you want to avoid ticks and mosquitoes altogether. And further, you can practice in the winter. This was a big plot twist for me, by the way, because just a few years ago, I never thought of going into nature in the winter. It's basically my favorite time to go. Well, I love going in all seasons, but it's one of my favorite times to go because in the winter, there are no bugs. There are no mosquitoes. There are no ticks. Thank you for joining me on this virtual hike. You now know the who and how of tree yoga. I hope to see you on lesson 4, when and where.